Part of me will always find a reason to talk about why The Last of Us is genuinely the greatest game of all time. And I'm not sure if it's just the nostalgia talking, but actually it has to be the gameplay itself. Because there's still something about the universe of The Last of Us that is so unique to me and genuinely just invokes this feeling of euphoria inside of me that takes me back to the time when I was a teenager when this game first came out. And I remember being so excited for this game after seeing the E3 gameplay for it solely because of the fact that it looked like a post-apocalyptic environment that none of us had ever seen before. But what makes this game so special is not just the zombies in the universe of The Last of Us itself, it's definitely the relationship between Ellie and Joel. And even though this was like my 10,000th time beating this game, I definitely enjoyed this just as much as every other moment before. And it's because there's nothing that gets old about watching these two enjoy each other's time, especially after noticing all the trauma that Joel carries with him and how he even mentions during this part of the game that you can't really ever escape your past. Somehow he finds a way to power through it and to involve himself in the life of Ellie, even though it's difficult for him after the loss of his daughter. And I honestly cried a lot beating the game this time, not just because of how sad the base ending of The Last of Us Part 1 is, but just because of how everything ends up turning out. Because there is a moment where Ellie tells Joel right before they get to the hospital that she doesn't want to go back to Tommy's just because she can't let all the trauma that they've been through have been for nothing. And there's something that's incredibly depressing about that, mainly when you think about how ultimately it all really was for nothing at all. The end result was a very broken and traumatized Ellie who lost her family, lost Joel, and lost everything at the end of it all. So playing this game is really just tragic now more than anything. And even though I can go on forever about how I could have wished for there to have been a better turnout with the sequel, I want to just use this video to focus on the love for the first game and what made it so great. And it's definitely moments like this where Joel and Ellie come across the giraffe and they're just taking in the beautiful nature and the lost remnants of what was a very vibrant world. And it's things like this that I think really give personality to not only to video games but to art in general. I mean, this is something that I'll never forget from the first moment I've seen it, and every time I enjoy it more than the last. And just seeing Ellie get so comfortable with Joel, whereas in the beginning Joel was pretty much indifferent to her presence because he was so cold and put off due to the apocalypse. It just really shows great character development, and it's a wonderful moment in video game history in general. And I know a lot of people debate whether or not they'd want to be a Walking Dead zombie apocalypse versus the zombies that we get in The Last of Us. And I know that conversation could technically go on forever, and there's a lot of good arguments on either side. But I would definitely want to be in The Last of Us universe solely so we could have the very cool nostalgic moments like that. I mean, The Walking Dead definitely has a lot of that too, but if this moment were to happen in The Walking Dead, the giraffes would have probably also been zombies. They're just something that's a little more peaceful to this little bit of scenery. With that being said, The Last of Us universe is still no joke at all, and this is something that you definitely get driven home in the last few moments of this game. Especially in that little moment when you go through the subway tunnel and you end up coming across all those infected. I forgot how terrifying it was, but I somehow managed to do it all in one life on permadeath grounded, man. So I'm technically the greatest Last of Us player of all time. And I was actually really good at The Last of Us factions when that multiplayer was still a thing. If you ever played that, definitely leave a comment and let me know. And also like the video and subscribe if you haven't already. But Ellie is definitely the component of The Last of Us first game that makes it so memorable and enjoyable. Even with the obvious remodeling, I definitely enjoy the character models in The Last of Us Part 1 PC remake. And the game has definitely evolved a lot from the state that it was in when it first came out, which I think was 2 years ago now, which means that I am definitely turning into an old man. I also yapped a lot about this in the Discord, so if you haven't already joined that, the link will be in the description, discord.gg/AOTL. But anyways, enough shameless plugs. Let's get back to why The Last of Us is the greatest game. Playing this on grounded mode definitely gave it a different level of challenge, and not using listening mode is something that I'm used to by now, but it also is very annoying. And it definitely got annoying getting one shot by the bloaters on basically every level they were on before the end. I mean, the bloaters were genuinely terrifying, especially in the enclosed spaces. This game definitely is scary. It's a horror game, even though it's not looked at as one. And another very beautiful aspect of these games to me is the instances where Joel goes back through his trauma, but relives it in a way where he reminisces on the good time. Like the instance where Ellie shows him a photo of him with his daughter, I believe, at a soccer game. And it's things like that that really just make you sit and ponder about this character Joel and what he ultimately ended up going through, because he has such a tragic story when it comes to video game MCs. I mean, he really did not deserve his outcome. And I know a lot of the leftist LGBT community were making a lot of arguments about how Joel deserved his fate, but when you really think about it, this is just an old man that wanted to do anything and everything in his power to save his little girl. And even the creator of Last of Us agreed that Joel did the right thing and made the correct decision, because the Fireflies weren't even going to be able to manufacture a cure from Ellie's brain fungus. They were just going to unalive Ellie and lead Joel, a broken man who had now lost 2 daughters, to an overwhelming zombie apocalypse. And it would ultimately just be a tragic story. And even though we did definitely get a tragic story for Joel either way, I do at least least agree with the fact that we finally can acknowledge that Joel did the right thing. Because I'm not gonna lie to you, I'm pretty much going through the same thing Joel has in a different sense. I'm currently in a legal custody battle for my 2-year-old child who I love very much. And it has been definitely the most difficult thing I've ever dealt with in my life so far. And I've had to fight for the right to be an active presence in my son's life. Even though you have a lot of people out here who might want to be deadbeat dads or might not be interested in taking care of their children, there is genuinely nothing that I desire more in this life than to be the world's greatest father. Because of that, I can totally understand what it feels like to have to literally go to war with the world in order to save your child. If there's any video game character that I can personally in real life relate to, it is definitely Joel. And I can guarantee you that if I was in a situation where I had to choose saving the entire world or saving my son's life, I'm going to choose my son Goku every single time. And that's not at a detriment to the rest of humanity. That is just what you're supposed to do as a parent. And I don't think you can really say that you love your child if you wouldn't choose your child over the fate of the world, because the child is supposed to be your world. They are your next generational offspring. They are your next entry in your bloodline. And there's nothing greater than seeing them actualize and become the absolute best versions of themselves. So the same way I'm going to keep fighting for my child, I'm going to keep fighting and defending Joel. He is the GOAT video game character, right up there with Arthur Morgan, and he did not deserve what happened to him, Naughty Dog. So if you guys aren't going to make The Last of Us Part 3, I definitely feel like you should at least remake The Last of Us Part 2 and change the ending. Even if you don't keep Joel alive, at least give him an honorable hero's death. Don't disrespect the main character like that, man. This guy is genuinely the GOAT. Look at him boxing these freaking runners right now, man. Like, nobody else is moving like this in fiction. I know that there's no superpowers in The Last of Us universe technically, but if there was, Joel would definitely be considered like either a Batman level character or a straight up superhuman. And let me know how y'all feel about this. I've also always had this idea to where Ellie starts to develop the powers of the infected because of the fact that she was bitten. And if you think about it, it does technically make a lot of logical sense, especially because of the fact that we know for a fact that the cordyceps on Ellie's brain has somehow mutated according to the black lady. So what if at some point in time Ellie starts to develop superhuman strength like the bloater, or her cordyceps evolves to give her echolocation to where she has superhuman hearing like Clicker? Ultimately, I think there could be a lot of cool developments with Ellie's character if we actually started to go in the direction of what is the cordyceps virus and how is it going to continue to evolve as it mutates, especially with someone who is immune. And I think that would be a definitely really cool and interesting way to keep The Last of Us alive and keep people interested in the new outcomes of the franchise, because there's a lot of beauty in this world. As dark and depressing as it is, I still do believe if they did decide to do The Last of Us Part 3 that a lot of people would buy it. I would definitely tune into it. And even though Naughty Dog has disappointed me many times with their creative decisions, I guess I'll say, and with the fact that they got rid of the Last of Us factions after milking it and baiting us with it for 6 years, I definitely would continue to support The Last of Us and the creators of the franchise in any and every way possible, because it is one of the most beautiful staples in video game and creative history, and it's definitely done a lot for me in my life. And even though I'm definitely sad about how everything turned out with Ellie and Joel, I can at least take peace and solace in knowing that right before Joel died, they were going to try and fix things, and that is not an opportunity that many people get. I can definitely tell y'all there is one person I have on my mind who I would literally do anything to be on the same terms with as Joel and Ellie as they were right before Joel's death, to where Ellie hated Joel because Joel lied to her, but she loved him so much that she was willing to try and fix their relationship. That right there is the beauty of The Last of Us. The fact that despite all of the tragedy, the humanity and the glimpses of light shine through in the relationship of these two characters. And without that, nothing else in the franchise really is as important. So I really do pray and hope that in some way, shape, or form we get to see Joel return. Maybe they get the Dragon Balls and wish Joel Miller back to life. I don't know. Let's just get Joel back somehow. But make sure you guys remember The Last of Us Part 1 as it is. A genuine masterpiece in gaming history and something that everyone deserves to play. I wouldn't even recommend watching the TV show over playing the game because it's that great, and it's a one-of-a-kind experience that you can only genuinely get out of playing it for yourself. The show did it sort of justice, but it's really not the same. So I would highly recommend playing the game if you haven't already. Also, make sure you leave a like and subscribe to JahMakesNerdies if you haven't. Go search it up. You'll find me easy. I also have a merch store if you're interested in that. I sell Sun God stuff because my name is Sun God. The link is in the bio. I also post funny stuff on TikTok sometimes, so follow me there, and I'll see you guys in the next video. Peace.